Marshall resigned after an internal investigation into his behavior. We will get to that in a moment. But in the meantime, that is Theo Epstein, the man who built the Cubs into a World Series winner. He is leaving the Cubs. We will have more on that in a moment as well. Back to Greg Marshall. Again, he is resigning after an investigation into his behavior, including reportedly punching a former player. Theo Epstein, we told you that news. And now, finally, our final headline, the NFL putting together the first all-black officiating crew for the Monday Night Football game between the Rams and the Buccaneers. NFL VP Troy Vincent called the move, quote, a testament to the countless and immeasurable contributions of black officials to the game. So history coming up on Monday Night Football, which is 6 days away right here on ESPN. But guess what? We are now down to just 26 hours till the 2020 NBA draft tips off. Also right here on ESPN. So who knows what's going to happen, Brian, between now and tomorrow?
It could be a lot if you're talking about comparisons to the trade market, because the trade market's in full swing. But top target James Harden is still a rocket. For now. You see, I hope you enjoyed your NBA offseason, because that is over by looking at the last 24 hours. James Harden, as we mentioned, the league scoring champ in each of the last 3 seasons, turned down the chance to become the first $50 million per year player with the Rockets, opening up a trade possibility. Houston, meanwhile, was the only team without a pick to make in Wednesday's draft until they acquired one from Portland in exchange for Robert Covington. Gordon Hayward and the Celtics have extended the deadline on his decision for a $34.2 million option for next season from today until Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And the Bucks, they've been busy. They've been wheeling and dealing, looking to reshape their roster around the Greek Freak. In the span of hours, they reached agreements to acquire both Jrue Holiday and Bogdan Bogdanovic.
That's the news. It is great to have our insider, Adrian Woj, here live in studio. So, Woj, the Bucks make 2 trades to try to improve their team for this year. And, of course, their number one goal is to keep Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee next season. So what do these new moves mean for the chances that Greek Freak says, okay, I'm with you, I'm staying?
Well, Sage, they've been in constant communication with Giannis since their season ended in the bubble. And they talked, and, they've sought his opinion about who he'd like to play with, what he thinks they need. And so that communication has been constant. There was a lot of enthusiasm last night and into today in that Bucks organization about the ability to trade for Holiday, Bogdanovic. The thing with Giannis, and I think they believe it in that organization, and sometimes star players are looking for reasons to leave, and there are those who are looking for reasons to stay. And I think that's been the belief with Giannis all along, but he still has to sign that extension. I think they remain optimistic that they've made so far a pretty strong case. They still have time with the draft and the start of free agency to do more, to add more talent.
He's talked so much about the importance of family and how Milwaukee has been his family. So we will see how this plays out for sure. Meantime, what about in Boston? The Celtics and Gordon Hayward, they've moved the deadline for him to pick up that $34.2 million option to Thursday. It was today. What's the reason for that extension there, Woj?
There are a lot of different scenarios on the table for Gordon Hayward, including he could opt out and sign as a free agent with a team that has salary cap space. They've talked with Boston about sign and trade scenarios where they need Boston's help to go to teams who don't have the salary cap space and then sign an extension there. He can opt in and play the last year of his deal in Boston. Allowing him to take a couple more days here just allows the team and Hayward to continue working through all these scenarios. Listen, there are many that include Gordon Hayward moving on, and there are those that will allow him to continue to play there. But it's certainly an evolving situation, and there's a lot on the table. He's got to have to make a decision here in the next couple days.
Yeah, interesting, though, that both sides agreeing to push the deadline to Thursday after the draft. Woj, that's why you're here. Keep us up to date.
Thanks, Sage.
Thank you. Brian, over to you.
All right, Sage, you mentioned this story earlier. Drew Brees seeking a second opinion from medical specialists about the full scope of his chest injuries, according to our Ed Werder. Test performed on Monday revealed that Brees had a collapsed lung and multiple rib fractures on both sides of his chest. The Saints hope that a second opinion will help them decide if Brees should go on IR. Now, the Saints are significant favorites in the NFC South, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, with a 74% chance to take home their 4th straight division crown. Not only does New Orleans own an advantage over the Bucs in the loss column, but they've beaten their division rivals twice already this season, but they are still the favorites without their Hall of Fame quarterback. That's the big question. So for answers and more on Drew Brees, we bring in Ed Werder. He's been all over this story, by the way. Ed, what is the latest regarding Drew Brees as he seeks a second opinion?
Yeah, Ryan, you said it. Drew Brees is having his x-rays and CAT scan imaging sent to other specialists to ensure that the quarterback and the Saints have an understanding of the full scope of his chest injuries. And one reason for that decision is those examining Brees yesterday confirmed 3 fractured ribs on his left side and at least 2 on the right, but they recognize there could possibly be more. Brees unknowingly played against the 49ers, not realizing he had fractured ribs on the left side the previous week against the Buccaneers. The x-rays performed at that time did not reveal those fractures, possibly because of inflammation, but they were clearly seen on the CT scan performed yesterday. And of course, that collapsed lung you mentioned, that remains the first priority. So very clearly, this still indicates Brees is in the process of gathering information. One source reiterated today there could be no accurate estimates about when he'll be healthy enough to play again until all of this information is known. And the Saints probably need this phase completed before making a decision about whether to place Brees on injured reserve, which you mentioned would require him to miss at least 3 games, but also create a vacant roster spot. And Ryan, Brees is 41 years old, and many suspect this will be the final season of his Hall of Fame career. I know this has been an exceptionally hard season on Brees from the standpoint of simultaneously managing a number of injuries. And remember, everything we've talked about is without considering the shoulder injury that was painful enough that last week it distracted Brees from realizing he had 3 fractured ribs in week 9.
A difficult season for him, and I am sure this is not the way he wants to go out. We'll await to see what happens with that opinion, and we expect to see a combo of Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill as the division-leading Saints host the Falcons on Sunday. Ed Werder with the very latest. Ed, thanks. And coming up, don't miss PTI's bonus topic on the new NFC balance of power. Tony and Mike predict which team will have who finishes the top seed in the conference.
All right, big news out of Major League Baseball. Theo Epstein, the executive who brought the long-awaited World Series title to the long-suffering Chicago Cubs, is stepping down from his post as their president of baseball operations. Epstein said after the Cubs season ended in September that he anticipated staying for at least 1 more year until his deal expired in 2021. But instead of the full 10 years, he says he's staying for 9. He's done. Here's Theo's explanation.
First of all, it became really clear that we'd be facing some significant long-term decisions this winter, decisions with long-term impacts. And, those types of decisions are really best made by somebody who's going to be here for a long time, not just for 1 more year, and somebody who's invested in the organization for the long haul. My phone will probably be ringing, and I always answer and look forward to, hearing what people have to say, since I'm open-minded about my future, but those are my plans. I don't expect to jump right back in with another team now, and I'm really looking forward to the freedom to explore lots of different things.
As far as the Cubs are concerned, Jed Hoyer has already been promoted to take over for Theo Epstein. For more on this decision, we welcome in our insider, Jeff Passan. And Jeff, listen, Theo is as open as anybody out there. He, of course, was the architect of championships in Boston and Chicago, of all places. So now what? When you think of his third chapter, Jeff, the Mets, that's the franchise everybody's talking about. What are you hearing?
Sage, that's the place that all the Mets fans
sure.
want Theo Epstein to land. But it looks like, at least if he follows along with his plan, they're going to have to wait a year. And at this point, I'm just not sure that's in the cards for the New York Mets. Now, of course, Theo Epstein could change his mind. He says that he wants to go spend time with his family, that he wants to go work with a foundation to be named later, and with the Players Alliance, and with different groups and organizations. He's going to remain inside of baseball. But that itch that has been there, that has been the driving force behind him with the Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs, it just sort of petered out after 9 years in Chicago. Take a breather, recharge the batteries, and come back better than ever next year is the plan. But of course, the Mets do have a lot to offer.
They certainly do, and I understand what their fans are feeling like as a Cubs fan. But it's only been since '86. Come on, Mets fans. Stop complaining. One of the more memorable moments from this postseason, of course, Jeff, was Cody Bellinger hurting himself on a home run celebration in Game 7 of the NLCS. And I hear you have news on Bellinger today. What can you tell us?
Yeah, sources have told me, Sage, that Cody Bellinger underwent shoulder surgery on that right shoulder that was dislocated in his celebration with Kike Hernandez. The plan is that he's going to rehab for the next 10 weeks and will be ready by the time spring training starts, and the Dodgers certainly are hoping so. After that Game 1 home run in the World Series, had a pretty rough time the rest of the way. Now, clearly it's his non-throwing shoulder, so that's helpful. But when you have a swing as strong and as violent as Cody Bellinger's, those shoulders